Jayo Vishnupada Parivradacharya Ashto Tarashata Sri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by Srila Prabhupada, Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order. Chapter 29 talks between Narada and King Prachini Barhi. Today's text 54, it's prose, so I'm just going to read the prose. We're not going to chant it responsibly, but we will do the word for word. Samanak Savadharmanam Strinam Sharada Ashrame Pushpa Madhu Gandavat Kshudratamam Kamya Karma Vipa Kajam Kama Sukalavam Jai Vyaupas Yadi Vichin Vantam Vituni Bhuyatad Avaniveshita Manasam Shadam Griganasama Atimanohara Vanitadi Janalapesh Patitaraham Ati Praloho Bhitakarnam Agribrika Yutavaratmana Ayur Harato Uratrantan Kalalabadisheshan Aviganaya Griheshu Viharantam Krishtata eva paroksham anupravritto Lubdaka kritantom tak Sharenayam viha paravidyati Tamimam atmanam ahorajan Bhinna hridayam drashtimarhasiti. Got it? Word for word. Sumanaha. Flowers. Sabadharmana. Exactly like. Strinam, of women. Sharane, in the shelter. Ashrame, household life. Pushpa, in flowers. Madhu, of honey. Gandha, the aroma. But, like. Kshudratamam, most insignificant. Kamya, desired. Karma, of activities. Vipakajam, obtained as a result. Kama sukha, of sense gratification. Lavam, of fragment. Jaifya, enjoyment of the tongue. Anupastya, sex enjoyment. Adi, beginning with. Vichinvantam, always thinking of. Mituni bhuya, engaging in sex life, tat, in his wife, abhiniveshita, always absorbed, manasam, whose mind, shat angri, of bumblebees, gana, of crowds, sama, gentle, gita, the chanting, vat, like, ati, very, manohara, attractive, vanita adi, beginning with the wife, jana, of people, alapeshu, to the talks, atitaram, excessively, ati, very much, pralobhita, attracted, karnam, whose ears, agre, in front, vrakayuta, a group of tigers, vat, like, atmanaha, of oneself, ayahu, span of life, harataha, taken away, aharatran, days and nights, tan, all of them, kalalava visheshan, the moments of time, abhiganaya, without considering, griheshu, in household life, viharantam, enjoying, prishtataha, prishtataha, from the back, eva, certainly, paroksham, without being seen, anupravrittaha, following behind, lobhakaha, the hunter, kritaantaha, the superintendent of death, antaha, in the heart, sharena, by an arrow, yam, whom, iha, in this world, paravidhyati, pierces, tam, that, imam, this, atmanam, yourself, ahorajan, O king, bhinna hridayam, whose heart is pierced, drashtum, to see, arvasi, you ought, iti, thus. Okay, finished. Word for word. Maybe the longest I've ever done. Translation. And of course, this is Narada Muni speaking to King Prajanivarhi. Did you ever find that? Oh, you found the wand? Or did you buy another one? You found it?
I tried to throw it away, but
Okay. All right. Translation, my dear king. Woman who was very attractive in the beginning, but in the end very disturbing, is exactly like the flower, which is attractive in the beginning and detestable in the end. With woman, the living entity is entangled with lusty desires, and he enjoys sex, just as one enjoys the aroma of a flower. He thus enjoys a life of sense gratification, from his tongue to his genitals. And in this way, the living entity considers himself very happy in family life. United with his wife, he always remains absorbed in such thoughts. He feels great pleasure in hearing the talks of his wife and children, which are like the sweet humming of bumblebees that collect honey from flower to flower. He forgets that before him, in other words, in front, is time, which has taken away his lifespan by the passing of day and night. He does not see the gradual diminishing of his life, nor does he care about the superintendent of death who was trying to kill him from behind. Just try to understand this. You are in a precarious position and are threatened from all sides. Should we do that responsibly, or is that pretty clear? It's too long. Okay. Yeah, I know. Yeah. All right. Now, Srila Prabhupada's purport. Materialistic life means forgetting one's constitutional position as the eternal servant of Krishna, and this forgetfulness is especially enhanced in the Grihastha ashram. In the Grihastha ashram, a young man accepts a young wife who is very beautiful in the beginning, but in due course of time, after giving birth to many children and becoming older and older, she demands many things from the husband to maintain the entire family. At such a time, the wife becomes detestable to the very man who accepted her in her younger days. One becomes attached to the Grihastha ashram for two reasons only. The wife cooks palatable dishes for the satisfaction of her husband's tongue, and she gives him sexual pleasure at night. A person attached to the Grihastha ashram is always thinking of these two things: palatable food and sex enjoyment. The talks of the wife, which are enjoyed as a family recreation, and the talks of the children both attract the living entity. He thus forgets that he has to die someday and has to prepare for the next life if he wants to be put into a congenial body. The deer in the flower garden is an allegory used by the great sage Narada to point out to the king that the king himself is similarly entrapped by such surroundings. Actually, everyone is surrounded by such a family life, which misleads one. The living entity thus forgets that he has to return home, back to Godhead. He simply becomes entangled in family life. Prahlad Maharaj is therefore hinted, Idvatmapatam grihimandakupam vanangato yadharimashayeta. Family life is considered a blind well, andakupam, into which a person falls and dies without help. Prahlad Maharaj recommends that while one's senses are there and one is strong enough, he should abandon the Grihastha ashram and take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, going to the forests of Vrindavan. According to Vedic civilization, one has to give up family life at a certain age, the age of 50, take vanaprastha, and eventually remain alone as a sannyasi. That is the prescribed method of Vedic civilization known as Varnashram Dharma. When one takes sannyas after enjoying family life, he pleases the Supreme Lord Vishnu. One has to understand one's position in family or worldly life. That is called intelligence. One should not remain always trapped in family life to satisfy his tongue and genitals in association with a wife. In such a way, one simply spoils his life. According to Vedic civilization, it is imperative to give up the family at a certain stage, by force if necessary. Unfortunately, so-called followers of Vedic life do not give up their family, even at the end of life, unless they are forced by death. There should be a thorough overhauling of the social system, and society should revert to the Vedic principles. That is, the 4 varnas and the 4 ashrams. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master is kindly forcing open my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, heavy duty.
The heavier purports.
Yeah. Okay. So after preaching his final allegory to King Barhishat yesterday, which you heard Garanga Prem speak on in verse 53, today and tomorrow in verses 54 and 55, Narada Muni is unpacking that symbolic scene. He's explaining it. What is that scene? The deer enjoying with his she-deer in the garden. So today and then tomorrow also, when in 55 Diros, the verse Diro does. So Narada Muni's explanation of his allegory starts with his starkest description yet of a man's attraction to a woman who is, quote, attractive in the beginning and detestable at the end. And if you're a lady, like we have one lady in the room, you can just reverse the whole thing, just reverse it. So the description applies to a man, right? Very, very nice, all buff, sweet guy. And then, and then after a while, he ends up like me, you know, looking, the skin looks like a fish skin, fish scales. And then you have noodle muscles, right? You have noodles for muscles. I never had muscles anyway. All right. Yeah. So this whole verse and purport, it reminded me, because at the end of the verse, the translation says, this is Narada Muni, he's saying, you are in a precarious position and are threatened from all sides. So this verse and the purport reminded me of a famous poem written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that I quote sometimes, but I'm gonna read the whole poem. The first part of the poem is the fall of the jiva. It's just like how Narada Muni described the fall of Paranjan. And now, as Narada, as he's really giving it, this is his final attempt to save Barhishat. He's really giving it to Barhishat. And that part of the poem is the second part of the poem, where in the first part of the poem, Bhaktivinoda describes how the jiva falls, allured, by the glare of material energy. And the second part is like Narada trying to save Barhishat. And it ends up, it has a happy ending because he's taken the mercy of the pure devotee.
Is this the Jiva poem?
This is called Sharagrahi Vaishnava, which means a Vaishnava, a pure devotee who grabs the essence, the sar, the essence of life, grahi, sar, he grasps the essence of life. So this is, you've probably heard many stanzas of this, but I'm going to read the whole thing. It's got, I think, 20-some stanzas. And it's written in a very popular, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote in 1871, in a very popular, and he was very familiar with Western poets and philosophers. So he was writing it in a very popular meter of the day. Da-dun, 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 da-dun. Emily Dickinson wrote a lot in this meter. So did Ralph Waldo Emerson. So Saragrahi Vaishnava. Alas for those who spend their days.
It's also called the Jiva, like the men they just call it the Jiva.
Oh yeah? I've never seen that.
I heard it from Chitsukananda.
Okay. Well, this is what Bhaktivinoda calls it, Saragrahi Vaishnava. Alas for those who spend their days in festive mirth and joy. Alas, people just like the deer in the garden, right? He's just eating the grass, having fun with the she deer, and hearing the little fawns. The dazzling, deadly, liquid forms their heart for air employ. The shining bottles charm their eyes and draw their heart's embrace. Liquor. The slaves of wine can never rise from what we call disgrace. Was man intended to be a brute in work and heart? No, we're not supposed to live like hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, right? Should man, the Lord of all around, from common sense depart? Man's glory is in common sense, dictating us the grace that man is made to live and love the beauteous heaven's embrace. Heaven meaning the kingdom of God in this case. He's using the Christian. The flesh is not our own, alas. We're not these bodies. The flesh is not our own, alas. The mortal frame a chain. The soul confined to former wrongs should try to rise again. Why then this childish play in that which cannot be our own, which falls within 100 years, as if a rose ablown? So that's what set me off. The whole image of the flower. Oh, the flower, yeah, it's just like a fresh lady or a man, and then it wilts. It starts wilting, right? And I thought, oh, Bhakti Vinod. I remember that. As if a rose ablown. Right? Our life is but a rosy hue, to go ere long to naught. The soul alone would last for air, with good or evil fraught. How deep the thought of times to be, how grave the aspect looks, and wrapped in awe become, oh, I, when reading nature's books. Man's life to him a problem dark, a screen, both left and right, the deer in front and behind. If he tries to move away from the hunter, he moves toward the tiger. If he moves away from the tiger, he's going to get shot by the hunter. He can't win. A screen, both left and right. No soul hath come to tell us what exists beyond our sight. But then, here we go. Here's where it starts turning. But then, a voice, how deep and soft, within ourselves is left. Man, man, thou art immortal soul. Thee death can never melt. For thee, thy sire on high, the Supreme Lord, has kept a store of bliss above. To end of time thou art, oh, his, who wants but purest love. O love, thy power and spell benign now melt my soul to God. How can my earthly words describe that feeling soft and broad? Enjoyment, sorrow, what but lots to which the flesh is heir? The duality, right? Enjoyment, sorrow, what but lots to which the flesh is heir? The soul that sleeps alone concludes, in them it hath a share. We're sleeping, identifying with the body. We think we're suffering or enjoying, identifying with the body. And then, my friends, no more enjoy, nor weep for all below. The women, wine, and flesh of beasts, no love on thee bestow. This is not where you're going to find love. But thine to love thy brother man, and give thyself to God. And God doth know your wages fair. This fact is true and broad. The wages, love of God, that's the payoff. All right, here we go. You've heard this one. Forget the past that sleeps, and ne'er the future dream at all, but act in times that are with thee, and progress ye shall call. But tell me not in reasoning cold. I don't know if I shared with this before, but when my wife and I were in South India, and we got a call from the States that her father had just passed away. And they were going to have the funeral soon. And we knew we couldn't make it. So her sister, Annie Ree, said to my wife, who she called her Kathy by her, Kathy, Dad just passed away. So we know you can't make the funeral, but is there something you can tell us? You can tell us something you can appreciate about Dad that we can say at the funeral? And she quoted this stanza. Forget the past that sleeps, and there the future dream it all. And she was saying that, she was thinking of her father. You, the soul, who was my dad in this incarnation. But act in times that are with thee, and progress he shall call. And so Annie took it down on a piece of paper. And she said, okay, this is so beautiful. I think we're going to bury Pop's, Dad in it. He's called Pop's. And we're going to bury Pop in it. We're going to put this, I'm going to write a piece of paper. We're going to put it in his breast pocket. And when we bury him, it's going to be in his breast pocket. And I think that this was his reward, because when she joined the devotees in 1979, 1980, 55th Street, big former skyscraper temple, everybody, because they were very strict Catholics. She was the second of 11 kids. He was wealthy. He was good. And so anyway, so he was the only one. Everybody was so freaked out that Kathy was running away and joining a cult. This is 79, 80, right? This is still. So, but he was very good. He said, now, Ellen, his wife, Ellen, don't, look, I'm going to do some research on this group. And let's not just out of hand dismiss what she's doing. We know she's the most spiritual in the family, because she was always like that. She wanted to be a nun and all this stuff. So anyway, so he did some research, and he found out that this is an authentic religious tradition, and so when she finally went and met her father again for the first, or maybe they spoke on the phone, I forget. He said, so how's my little Hare Krishna? He accepted it. Yeah, it was great. So,
What year did you get married?
81. Yeah, we weren't married. No, she was 81, and Gita Nagari, Burijan was the marrying priest. Yeah, so that was the stanza and so he got some mercy there. And now Bhaktivinoda says, but tell me not in reasoning cold, the soul is made alone by earth's mechanic, lifeless rules, and to destruction prone. This is not the soul, not the self is not matter. Who? My God, who gave us life and all, alone the soul can kill, or give it all the joys above, his promise to fulfill. It's all up to Krishna, the Supreme Soul. We're of him, we're not of man. So push on thy onward march, O soul, against an evil deed that stands with soldiers, hate and lust. A hero be indeed. Yeah, be a hero. Ooh, there we go. Maintain thy post in spirit world as firmly as you can. Let never matter push thee down, and stand, heroic man or woman. Oh, Sharagrahi Vaishnav soul. Here it's right in the stanza. O Sharagrahi Vaishnava soul, thou art an angel fair. This is Narada Muni. Lead me on to Vrindavan, and spirit's power declare. There, rest my soul from matter free upon my lover's arms. Eternal peace and spirit's love are all my chanting charms. Bhakti-vinod. Whoa. Yeah. He added a one in front of all. The beautiful zeros. So many beautiful poems written in that meter. Iambic tetrameter, iambic trimeter. He put Krishna. Okay, where are we? Whoop. How are we doing? Okay. All right. So Narada Muni's explanation of his allegory. Oh, wait a minute, I read that, didn't I? Yeah, okay. Now, if Narada Muni's explanation of his symbolic scene is stark, it was stark. That what I read, for the translation. Srila Prabhupada's purport is super graphic, describing finding the beauty of the lovely wife, of describing, what is it? Can't even read my writing. Finding beauty of the lovely wife, especially after, finding the beauty of his lovely wife, especially after birthing children that he's fathered. I mean, he's the one that, impregnated her, but that tends to do a number on the lady's body. As the saying goes, youth is wasted on the young. When we meet each other when we're teens or 20-somethings, and that's very often when, marriage take place, or, well, not with Generation Z these days. They don't believe in marriage anymore. A lot of these people are. Then that's when Cupid's arrow goes, because their body looks good, the senses are strong, and there's no spiritual knowledge, there's no varnashram culture, there's no spiritual culture to, directly, to properly channel that desire and see the life as the long game, where it's all headed, and how we're not the body. But we have desires, okay, so let's at least take care of them dharmically, progressively, so we don't degrade ourselves. So most striking to me is Srila Prabhupada's connecting the materialistic ways, did you catch this, to the Grihastha ashram. He didn't say Grihamedi, materialistic householders. He said the Grihastha ashram. You got it? Yeah. Which, after all, is also a place, it's an ashram, a place where spiritual life is cultivated. It's one of the stages of life, of spiritual life, ashram. At the same time, Prabhupada says, quote, the wife cooks palatable dishes for the satisfaction of her husband's tongue, and she gives him sexual pleasure at night. Well, she might enjoy the cooking, and she has pleasure too, because we're all Prakriti trying to be Purush, trying to be the enjoyers, whether we're man or woman or husband and wife. Yeah. So, in other words, even the Grihastha ashram can become a blind well where one dies. Yeah, we can get all just into the externals, the pleasures of the Grihastha ashram. I just remembered our godbrother Gaur Hari, the late Gaur Hari, passed on a couple of years ago. And Ketanagari, what did I ask him? When I was a brahmachari in Ketanagari. It was at the end of my brahmacharya. I joined in 1970, and I was some kind of brahmachari for 11 years. And then there were a lot of older, householders at Ketanagari. So I asked Gaurhari, who was one of the older householders, I said, well, why did you get married, Gaurhari Prabhu? He said, well, look, it's the only ashram where you can get a good meal, because you might have to take some, just very too simple fare, and then get your laundry done. The idea was that your wife's going to do your laundry. I said, what? I was looking for something more, anyway, but that was funny. Yeah, and that was not a happy marriage he had either. Okay, a blind well where one dies. To support his point, Srila Prabhupada quotes Prahlad Maharaj, who says the same thing in Srimad Bhagavatam 755. So we're going to take a look at that, because it's also, I think Prabhupada uses Grihastha Ashram in the purport too. Yeah. So this famous verse, in fact, if you saw the movie, Maha Avatar Nrsimha, Prahlad quoted the verse to his father. Oh, Prahlad, yeah, what's the best you have learned, from your teachers. So first he was talking about politics and diplomacy, and Radhikashi proved, yeah, this is very good. And then Prahlad said, now you asked me this because you asked me what my teachers have taught me, but there's something better. And so then then this is what he says. Shri Prahlad Uvacha Tat Sadhamanye Suravarhadehinam Sada Samadvignadiyam Asadgraha Idvavapatam Grihamandakupam Vanangato Yadharimashvayeta. Prahlad Maharaj replied, O best of the Asuras, king of the demons, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master. This isn't from the
Same Bhagavatam.
Yeah, this is Narada Muni, right? Same person. Not from Shanda and Amarka, his teachers. Any person who has accepted a temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety, because having fallen in a dark well, where there is no water, but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest, Van. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and should thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now this infuriated Hiranyakashipu, but in the purport to this verse, Prabhupada writes, Hiranyakashipu thought that Prahlad, being nothing but a small boy with no actual experience, might reply with something pleasing, but nothing practical. Prahlad Maharaj, however, an exalted devotee, had acquired all the qualities of education in the womb. And then Prabhupada quotes famous Yasyasti Bhaktir verse, which means, quote, one who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna consistently manifests all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods. However, he who has no devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no good qualifications, because he is engaged by mental concoction in material existence, which is the external feature of the Lord. Unquote. And then Prabhupada continues, so-called educated philosophers and scientists who are simply on the mental platform cannot distinguish between what is actually sat, eternal, and what is asat, temporary. The Vedic conjunction is asato ma, jyotirgama. Everyone should give up the platform of temporary existence and approach the eternal platform. The soul is eternal, and topics concerning the eternal soul are actual knowledge. Elsewhere it is said, apashyatam atmatabam griheshu grihamedinam. That's materialistic household. Those who are attached to the bodily concept of life and who thus stick to life as a grihasta, then Prabhupada says grihasta though, or householder, on the platform of material sense enjoyment cannot see the welfare of the eternal soul. So we can get so wrapped up in the trappings of household life and forget that it's actually a place where one has to make spiritual progress, that we can wallow in it and never graduate from it to the next stage. Prahlad Maharaj confirmed this by saying that if one wants success in life, he should immediately understand from the right sources what his self-interest is and how he should mold his life in spiritual consciousness. One should understand himself to be part and parcel of Krishna, and thus completely take shelter of his lotus feet for guaranteed spiritual success. Everyone in the material world is in the bodily conception, struggling hard for existence, life after life. Prahlad Maharaj therefore recommended that to stop this material condition of repeated birth and death, one should go to the forest, Van. And then Prabhupada, his last paragraph is all about the Varnashram system. In the Varnashram system, one first becomes a brahmachari, then a grihastha, a vanaprastha. He doesn't stay a grihastha, right? A vanaprastha, and finally a sannyasi. Unless he's Shudra Varna, then grihastha ashram is the only suitable ashram. Going to the forest means accepting vanaprastha life, which is between grihastha life and sannyas. As confirmed in the Vishnu Purana, Varna Shama Charavata Purushena Parapuman Vishnuram Radyate. By accepting the institution of Varna and Ashram, one can very easily elevate himself to the platform of worshipping Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, if one remains in the bodily conception, one must rot in this within this material world, and his life will be a failure. Society must have divisions of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and for spiritual advancement, one must gradually develop as a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasi. Prahlad Maharaj recommended that his father accept vanaprastha life. He's preaching to his father. Because as a grihastha, he was becoming increasingly demoniac due to bodily attachment. Prahlad recommended to his father that accepting vanaprastha life would be better than going deeper and deeper into griham andakupam, the blind well of life as a grihastha. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we therefore invite all the elderly persons of the world to come to Vrindavan and stay there in retired life, making advancement in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And finally, remembering our, yes. So here we are a few days out now from that amazing weekend we just had. Pran Pratishtha, Janmashtami, and Vyasa Puja. So remembering our mood of gratitude to Srila Prabhupada, which intensified our during last Sunday's Vyasa Puja homages, we may thank His Divine Grace, who has given us our family of devotees. Look, we need family, we need friendships, we need to laugh, and we need good food, and we need who has given us our family of devotees, where all our eating, sleeping, mating, and defending is dovetailed in His service, and finally consummated, if He's pleased, in Krishna praying. So, yeah, that's Prabhupada's gift to us. He created a whole society where we can, all these desires can be purified out, and we can make advancement back home, back to Godhead. On that note, we have a comment, question, reflection.
That's great, Guru, thank you.
So it's always interesting to get verses like that, you know. And, Prabhupada being very heavy. So my comment is just that I've experienced that in the last 2 weeks. now with today being number 5, 5 people I know have died or are going to die.
From your previous life or from devotee? Or
One's a devotee. One was a devotee. 3 were from my previous life. Well, still my life.
Previous devotee to devotee.
Pre-devotee life. Some of them are still not. Anyhow, the point is that I've been thinking so much about how grateful I am for Prabhupada to have transcendental knowledge, not be bewildered by such things, and also just how precarious life is, because it's realizing just like really one of my people I know was just 25, my age, just died immediately, and I was thinking to myself, we have to be very serious, because it's hard to. It's like we hear this stuff so theoretically all the time, but sometimes it doesn't get deep, and then sometimes we have moments where we realize, like, why aren't I being serious? Because like, I want to go back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada said Maharaj Parikshit had 7 days. We don't know if we have 1 second. It was just very thoughtful, and how we can, we should try to bypass all the Maya we can and just give it to Krishna. Secondly, my question is having been a person who's gone through the ashrams and experienced, realizations in that, I was wondering if you can share a little bit of your own experience in terms of being brahmachari, being grihastha, being a vanaprastha, and just what you've realized in that course of that due course.
How long do we have? Well, when I joined in 1970, by default, I was a brahmachari. But of course, because I didn't go to the Gurukula, I went to the Asura Kula. By then, I was ruined, right? 23. So I'd already, as a teenager into 20-something, just indulged in all the civil activities. Yeah. I mentioned this before, even in the womb, drinking, right? Because my mother drank, eating meat, smoking, she smoked. Yeah, right. And then I remember in the 6th grade, we were 11 years old, and we were all dancing together after school in the classroom to Buddy Holly and the Crickets, Peggy Sue, this was before your time, and Elvis. So we were all trained to check each other out, and then having parties. We were having parties with kissing going on. Hare Krishna. So the only thing I think the only reason I lasted 11 years is because I made up my mind to memorize the Gita, and that's what kept me, on the straight. And the Gita was so powerful. It was. I've shared with you how I did that. Over 6 years, it took me from 72 Janmashtami Vyas Puja, when the complete Macmillan Gita, we had given it to him in July, and then I had a copy in August. And right after the Vyas Puja, right after the cake incident, charging the cake, I sat down on the hillside, with my brand new Macmillan Gita, full of flaws, but still it was there, and started memorizing 1-1. And it took, and then something must have happened astrologically in my home, because the last year I was in my brahmacharya, I was in LA. And that probably didn't help either, Los Angeles. I told you the story of anyway, that's for a breakfast story maybe. I was getting told, I wasn't focused anymore like I used to be. I wasn't focused, even though I was doing service and stuff, but I still didn't have that. And then plus Prabhupada had left the planet by then, and things were getting kind of cuckoo in LA, with the zonal acharya thing. And so I decided I needed to go take shelter at Gitanagari, where Satrup Maharaj was he was the GBC there, and that was also his headquarters. And he was right in the Leelamrita. Anyway, so yeah, I got married there on the advice of Jagadish Prabhu. He was a Vanaprastha himself. And maybe I have to continue. Anyway, it lasted 19 years before my wife decided that she didn't want to be a Hare Krishna anymore, and he wanted another relationship. She didn't want any part of ISKCON, and yeah, she didn't really leave for philosophical reasons. She left for social reasons. Yeah. We were living in Prabhupada village by then, in 81 I got married, but by the time, she wanted not to be married anymore, we were living in Prabhupada village in North Carolina. And, she just didn't want any, because there was a lot of fighting going on. I mean, not just us, but I mean, we were fighting in the community. And there had been fighting in Gita Nagari as the communal thing unraveled and the farm was going down. And luckily, Bhakti Tirtha Swami and his people saved it. And then later on, at Bhakti Tirtha's request, his disciples saved it, Dhruva and Parijat, and it's doing well now. It's reimagined now as a retreat and Ahimsa Dairy and everything. So anyway, she just didn't want to be married, and so that was tough. Because by then, here's a good point. By then, I was thinking after 19 years of marriage, I mean, I was practicing sadhana and everything, but I guess I wasn't, because when she wanted a divorce, I felt like I didn't know who I was anymore, because I thought I was the father of this girl. She was like 10 then, Chandra. And I thought I was the husband of this wife, and that was my identity. My real identity was, Krishna was actually, in hindsight, looking back on the arc of my life, Krishna was giving me an exit from the Grihastha ashram. He was giving me a way to leave it and not have to support us. I was, going to events and selling hats, which on the weekends, which I didn't like, but anyway. And I was so foolish that a couple of years later, after moving to Hawaii, I tried it again. Tried remarriage, and that was really hellish, because Krishna really didn't like that one. And then I only started to recover, my identity, my eternal identity, when I went to Mayapur and started taking the courses, the Mayapur Institute. Yeah, and then became a teacher, and then found the Acharya seminars, and then anyway. So I'm in Vanaprastha mode since the second marriage didn't work out. 2007. That was 18 years ago, and probably this is where it's gonna. I don't think I'm gonna be. Someone like me doesn't have any. I did explore the sannyas ashram. I investigated it, and I thought, this is weird. The way they do the sannyas ministry, and you have to be owned by the sannyas ministry, and I got my mission. I got my founder acharya mission by now, and I don't want to be owned by. I got my program. So anyway, there's a lot more to tell, but. Still going on. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.